Hi guys, it's Sherry. Today we are going to be making a really cool pair of puffy earrings. They're going to be simple, fun, and look like you spent a ton of time on them. So the first thing you're going to do is get your Primo clay, or souffle would be good for earrings as well. But I have my white Primo and I have my fuchsia here. I have it rolled out to the middle section of my pasta machine. And that's about the thickness you are going to want. You don't want it too thin and you do not want it too thick, okay? Grab a flour micro cutter. It doesn't matter what micro cutter you're using, any flour one. And I have a flour cutter that we are going to be using to do our puffy earrings. So this particular one comes in 3 sizes, and I'm going to do the earring size, my smallest one here. In order to make sure that my stuff does not stick like into my micro cutter, I'm going to put baby powder on. And it just helps prevent it from sticking into your actual like micro cutter. And then you see how it stays right there? So it's perfect. And you're going to do a bunch of these. So you see how that kind of stuck in there? I probably didn't have enough baby powder on that. And go straight up. If you turn it, it will stick in your cutter as well. And I'm not sure exactly why, but I'm assuming it's just because it's pulling your clay. Everything that I am using here today, I will put in the description area. So I'm going to start with just that. And then I'm going to do the same exact thing to my white. Now you'll see I have like the pink clay here. I want to make sure that I'm brushing that out the best that I can, just so it doesn't get stuck on my white. So I'm just going to take a toothbrush, because the fuchsia really does discolor your pieces. So I'm just going to take a toothbrush and kind of pull that out just a little bit to make sure that I don't have too much that goes onto the white. And then I'll do the same thing. And this time for the white, I want to kind of stay in a pattern, all right? And the best way to do a pattern is really just to kind of mark it. So I'm going to show you how to do that very easily. You can sit there with a ruler and do all this crazy stuff, but I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these little tools and I want them separated. So I'm going to use this little guy here. And I'm just going to put little lines there, all right? And then right here. Take the back of your blade and you're just going to go straight down and just mark it. You don't have to do a deep mark. Just mark it so you could kind of follow it, all right? And I'm using the back of the blade so I don't cut through my actual clay. All right. And then I'm going to take it and go the opposite direction. And that gives me a really nice kind of squared off area. This one I want a little crooked. And don't worry about the lines because this is all going to get burnished. So you're not going to see all these lines. It's just kind of a guide, I guess you could say. All right. And now I'm going to go in between each one of these little squares and start popping it out. Now I'm going to put a little bit of flour here and there. Or not flour, my baby powder. Do you see how easy that is now? Now you have a good guide and you'll be able to follow the pattern. Okay. So now I'm just going to take all these little flowers out. Hopefully I went all the way down. Did I go all the way down? Did I go all the way down? There we go. There. Sometimes your clay will get soft underneath the lights, and you got to kind of play with it, but it'll all be okay. There we go. The only reason I'm not pulling my mat up is because I want everything to stay exactly where it is. So like for these, I'm just going to pull it up like this, because I don't mind if this gets disfigured or, you know, moves out of place. But for this, I don't want my white to move. So I have to kind of just pull everything out and do it a little bit harder. That way I'm not messing up the actual shape that I created. So don't pull it up if that's the part that you're working with, because you don't want to disfigure your stuff. Okay. Now, next, what I want to do is carefully lift these off of my mat here. And then I am going to place each one right into these holes. So very, very easy. You could just take whatever you have laying around to get them on there. Place them right in there. And you want to try not to disfigure your stuff, because you want them to stay in the shape of the flower. I love doing these inlay projects. I think they're a lot of fun, and you could do so many things with them. So just imagine I use a whole bunch of different flower cutters. You know how cool that'll look. Or different colors. Like what if I go like a rainbow color? That would look really pretty as well. Okay, so all those pieces are now filled in. Next, what I want to do is grab my piece of paper here, and I am going to burnish this. So burnishing is when you kind of rub your piece together and all those pieces become one piece of clay again. So I'm going to blend those pieces. Now, do not do this too hard, because if you do it too hard, you're really going to make the flowers kind of just mush and not look as pretty. You really just want to kind of go right to where you need to go, and that's it. And you'll see as you're using your deli paper how much you really need to burnish and not burnish. And that's why I like using the deli paper, because I can see right through it and see how much I need to go and when I need to stop. Okay, so I need to do that a little bit more. And now I am going to use a little metal soap bar here. And that is going to make everything real nice and smooth for me. Okay, so now you can stop there if you want. I am not going to. I'm going to add some yellow now. And what I want to do is I'm going to actually condition this real quick. And then we're going to put little dots right in the middle of each one of these flowers and then on the sides, just to really kind of make it pop a little bit more. All right, so once your piece is conditioned, I want you to roll out a snake or a noodle, however you want to call it. And I want these to be really small. Now you can get one of these little tools and these little puncher things and make a little circles that way. I'm not going to do that. I want these to kind of pop out a little bit more. Okay, so I'm just going to take my X-Acto knife and then I'm just going to kind of start cutting little pieces out. And you want them to be small. And then you take it between your two fingers, make a little ball, and then stick it right on there. So very simple. And to make sure that everything stays down, I'm going to get my little ball tool. I want my little one. Let me get this stuff out of the way here. Right here. All right, so I'm going to use a little ball tool, and then I'm just going to press that right down. This way I have a little indent right in the middle of each one of those flowers. Now, if your clay has gotten a little dirty, you could wipe it, but don't wipe it too much, because when you sand it, you could take off that dirt. But don't wipe it too much, because what you could do by doing that is actually smear it more and just make it look yucky. So just kind of wait till after you're done and you can sand it all. And then I'm going to take in between each one of these little flowers. Oops, if I could get it off my finger. I'm going to put a little yellow dot there as well. Okay? You see how nice that's going to look? So I'm going to do that throughout this entire piece and just kind of fill it up and make it look real pretty. All right, so that's finally taken care of. Now I'm going to kind of get my cutter here, and I'm just going to kind of measure out. You want to go, I would say, a little bit over the actual things, because we're going to be pushing this down. So we want to go a little bit over, and I want to get 2 out of each one of these little sections. So let me say, make sure I have enough room for everything. I'm going to go right there. And then let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to go about right there. So that will give us what we need there. And then I am actually going to do the same thing on the back side. This way we have our design on the front and back. But in order to do that, we're going to have to flip this upside down. So we want to flip that, okay? Alrighty. I am going to get some baby powder, and I'm just going to kind of put it right around this area. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I don't want it sticking in. If this was one piece without this circle here, I wouldn't have an issue. But because it has this piece in the middle and it has all these little areas around, I want to make sure that my clay can come out easily. You don't want to go through all that work and then basically have a really hard time getting this stuff out. So you're going to lay that down. And then you're going to start kind of just feeling around just to kind of get an idea. And then take your ball tool, and I like to take my big one, fill it with the baby powder, and then just go around it and slowly start pressing it down. You don't want to go too fast at one time, because if you do that, you run the risk of tearing your stuff, okay? So you really want to go slow with this. And just press it. You'll feel it around. And with the baby powder, you could kind of move the ball tool around a lot easier than if it was just the metal, or just the metal. I'm just going to kind of flip it and see. Okay, I could go a little bit further. And let me put this right on the tile I'm going to bake it on. That way I don't have to lift it up. Hopefully it'll stick to that tile, but if not, that's okay. All right, so I have a little, pocket here that kind of came loose. So I need to take this. If you have this happen, just take it and kind of go on the back side of it and put that back together. Sometimes when we burnish them, they don't come out perfect. So you just got to be a little bit cautious and really pay attention. And most of the time this is really simple, but because this is a lot of little bumps everywhere, I'm just gonna have to pay attention a little bit more. And then just place that right back where it was. And I want to get a nice little deep impression on this. That's why I'm kind of playing around with it so much. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. So let me, nope. Nope. And then let's just push that down. And then I'm going to take it off just like this. Oh, I was really kind of hoping this would just pop right out. Alrighty, let's see. There we go. You can see I'm just pushing those little sides where I'm barely touching it, to be quite honest, because I don't want any indents there. Ooh. Let me just get that off. Just move slow. It'll come out. There we go. So super cute. All right. Let's get this and start laying this out. First, let's make sure all our stuff is together real well. So let's take that. All I'm doing right now is taking the backs of this and making sure those pieces of clay are really stuck together. Because sometimes when you burnish, you still have like a tiny little opening, and then if you're pushing it in, it's going to open up more. So I'm just kind of pulling the back of this and making sure that everything is on there nice and tight. It's not going to distort the front of your piece, just the very back. So you're not going to see any of this. What I like to do is just take my little bowl tool, and after I put it in the baby powder, just kind of go around in little circles and really just kind of loosen that clay up and make it just a tad bit thinner. That's basically what you're doing here, is you're making your clay a little bit thinner by pushing it down to give you that really nice bubble look. And then I'm going to put this right on top of here, flip it, and then press down. And then just carefully, oops, push it out. There we go. See how cute that looks? What I like is that they're both, the front and the back, are detailed. So it just makes it a real fun little piece. Yeah, we're going to do it just like that. Okay, next, what I want to do is I'm going to take my ball tool here, and you can leave it puffed up like this, but I want to do something just slightly different, and I'm just going to press down in certain areas, just to give it that little bit of indent look. Now, it's not much, and you don't want to press really hard. You just put a little bit of dent in there. And I hope you can, so it almost gives it like that little quilt pattern look. So it's still puffy, but now you have these little marks here. And as long as you're not pressing too hard, you'll get those little indents there. They'll give you that real pretty like quilt look. You can just fix your little areas that may have kind of come up a little bit. I love having these little hollow earrings. And I wanted to do something a little bit different this time. Okay, now I'm going to place these in my oven, 275. I'll bake them for a half hour and then I will come back. My pieces are out of the oven. I let them completely cool, and I want to show you how cute these look right now. So we are going to finish these off to make them look fabulous. So what I ended up doing was I took my buffing machine and I just buffed all the edges, smoothed everything out. I cleaned up the inside with a little nail file that's almost like a rounded one, and just made everything nice and smooth. Next, I'm going to take my acrylic marker, all right? And I love these ones because they have like a brush tip. So they make them really, really easy to use. You could get right into all those little crevices as well. And I'm going to edge all these off. Now I'm going to have to do this twice because I do have the darker fuchsia color in there. And yellow is much lighter. So we're just going to go over that 2 times. And then that'll cover everything up real nice. Another trick that I like to do is sometimes I'll use like a darker yellow and then I'll put a lighter yellow on top to match a little bit better. But the darker yellow will cover up all that fuchsia color, which is really nice. And I'll go over it one more time. And then I'm going to do the middle part as well. All right. I'm going to show you quick, taking a lighter one. So this is my lighter yellow. And then I'm going to go over that. And this yellow will match those little circles much nicer than the first yellow. And like I said, the reason you do the darker is because it'll cover up all that fuchsia much, much easier than if you use the lighter color first. Okay, now let me get the inside. I start in the back area, kind of go around it, and then go on the inside. All right, next, what I want to do is I want to put a hole in this. Now, because it's bubbled out, sometimes when you take your little drill and you go like this, it's going to slip because it's bubbled out. So what I like to do is I like to take this little tool here. It reminds me of like an ice pick. And I'm going to figure out exactly where I want it. And then I'm going to push down. And that's going to create the beginning stages of my hole. Okay? And now my drill will have an area to go in and not slip as easy as it would if I didn't do that. And then right in there. Very, very simple. And I'm going to use these little acrylic findings that I got. So, and I think that's going to look super cute. All right. So to do that very easily, get your jump ring. Open it up, and I'm going to show you what this looks like completed on my other one. I have that 100% done already. It's over here drying. And then just close that up. Make sure it's completely closed. And super cute. And then I got my Sculpey gloss glaze. Now you don't have to glaze this because it's all clay. What I want to protect is the sides. Plus I like the shiny look. So I'm going to go over the whole thing. All right, so now I'm going to let this dry. And here is the finished one. And look how pretty that is. So I'm going to show you quick. This is the wet one. But look how nice those are. I think they are a lot of fun. I want to start bringing more fun earrings to you guys. Something that's different. This just reminds me of a really cute quilted pillow. And I love the bubbled out look. I mean, it's just a lot of fun. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, please remember, hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my membership. I have very detailed tutorials on there. And I will see you all next time. Bye.